Hello and welcome to The Single Spark, previously known as The Single Girl's Guide to Life. This is the podcast for all things single and sparkling. Whether you're looking to get your spark back as a single or you're looking to make sparks with others, this is the podcast for you, because all it takes is one single spark. And with that, let's get on with the show. Okay, welcome to another episode of The Single Spark, and the tone's down a little bit because this is a more sensitive topic this week, and I love to be happy and positive, but the reality is that it's not always that easy when you're single and you do want to be happy. And at the moment, for some of you, that happiness is stuck in the concept that you need to be in a relationship to be happy. And you know this. Hopefully you're listening to this episode because the title intrigued you enough to click. And the reason it did that is because it feels true and accurate that you're currently waiting for a relationship to make you happy. It's the thing that you're hoping will come along, whether it's a knight in shining armour or just Greg on Bumble swiping on your profile and starting with a cheesy opening line. But you're finding a bit of a disconnect between being single and trying to do everything to be okay with that, but being a bit annoyed, a bit down, a bit sad about the fact that you're not in a relationship yet and you thought you would be by now and you want to be and you're not. And that's really hard going. It's hard because it might be something that you really want for whatever reason. Good or bad. I don't mean good or bad, but I couldn't think of a better phrase and I couldn't let it go on silent for any longer than that. I.e. for the right reasons or even for the wrong reasons. The problem is, at the moment, it's having an impact not just on your relationship status, it's having an impact on everything else. Because when you're out with friends that are maybe in a relationship, new or old, as in they've been in a relationship for a long time or they're even in a new relationship, you don't feel like they get it anymore, or that they're so far into their relationships that they never got it anyway. You don't feel like they realise how difficult dating is, even if they were only just dating. But now that it's all solved for them, they're all high and mighty with their cliche statements of the right person will come along when you least expect it. Don't worry, there are plenty more fish in the sea. If you just stop looking for someone, they'll come along. Like, it all just comes out. And it can come out from anybody that you speak to. When you basically say to people, I'm finding being single a bit hard, and I feel like that would just complete everything. I feel like it would make it. I think I would just be able to take everything to the next level and do all the things that I said I wanted to do and crack on with the kind of life that I want, which may be marriage, maybe cohabiting, maybe children, if that's the thing you want. And I'm just stuck, and now I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for that relationship to happen so that I can do those things and be happy. Now, I've read a lot of books around this, and it's some place where I have to rely on the books in part because I don't fully feel that when it comes to the marriage part and the family or expanding a family part, because the latter I don't have a particular desire for, so I turn to books like The Panic Years for things like that. And then when it comes to marriage, well, I've done that once, and it really isn't of an importance to me that moving through to get married, it happens. A relationship without marriage is as good as a relationship with marriage, / can be better, because sometimes you stay in relationships that you're not meant to. And that brings me on to this whole concept that if you're sat there detached and thinking a relationship would just make my life happy, if I just had that I would be happy, then we're stuck in the mindset of you don't have something that you want, and that one external thing is going to fix everything. The problem is that we do it all the time. When I have this much money, life will be easier. When I have that, I'll never want for anything again. Once I live on my own, it will all be okay. How many times have you ever changed your circumstances in some way only to need to change it again not long after? And I think this was a problem in my own circumstances the first time I was in a relationship, because it would be, oh, well, we need to live together, and oh, we should be getting engaged, and oh, we should be planning a wedding. And it's like, after one thing has been accomplished, if you want to call it that word, like suddenly you're moving on to the next. Like, it's got to be the next thing. It's got to be the next thing. And in part, I don't think that contributed to the end of the relationship. But what I do think it contributed to was not appreciating it as much at the time. That I would have overlooked some of the best bits because I was just so focused on the next bit. And that very much was something I paid attention to in my own reflections when I was evaluating the divorce, the previous relationship. Like, I just wish I hadn't rushed. And that's why with Jason, it's very much a slow process, because there's no need for any of it. I don't need any of it to feel like my relationship is a valid relationship, that it's any better than anybody else's, that it's any worse than anyone else's just because we don't cohabit or we don't share children or anything like that. Are we happy with how our relationship is, where we have these two separate homes, where we have some of the time with his children and some of the time without, where we do go away on our own and then do go and do trips with the children? Like, I'm good with that. And that's the kind of thing that we've got to start addressing with you if you're sat feeling this with your single status, because we don't necessarily appreciate the singlehood if we're so focused on getting out of that situation, for waiting for someone to come along. We're focused on that, and then you'll be focused on the next thing and the next thing, and we miss all of the stuff that is happening right now, all of the good stuff that you could be using this time for, because I tell you what, you've got loads more time than I have. Loads more. I have to pay attention to someone every day for, maybe an hour, and then when I'm there at his house, when his children are there, where does the me time come from? And that's the bit that likens most to being a parent, is like, they just drain you of time. But I don't feel like I lost out in my single experience, because I wasn't focused on just finding that person. And you've heard me share on previous episodes recently, it was something that I wanted, but I didn't let it take away from what was going on now. A close friend of mine's husband, he was saying if he knew he was going to meet his partner when he did, which I think it's kind of, I don't actually know for sure when they would have met. Maybe early to mid-20s. I'm going to hedge my bets at. Let's go with that. But he said, if I'd known that I was going to meet my partner, our mutual friend, then I wouldn't have been worrying about it for the entirety of time before that. And I know that he looks on at that, not with regret per se, but maybe a tinge of regret of like, I could, like, if I'd known, I didn't have to panic about it. And my point would be, well, you don't have to panic about it anyway. And this is where I get a little bit woo. Because I don't see any other constructive way to deal with it other than to decide that there are forces in play that make stuff happen. And in this world, there are so many relationships that come together, that fall apart, that are constantly in potential creation, that I can't believe that no one on this earth has multiple chances at those things happening. That I believe that there's multiple people out there, and this is where religion is great, right? Because it's all choice. Sorry to offend any people that are religious and follow certain religions, but that it's all a choice that you choose to believe those things. And I choose to basically create my own version of the religions based on the things that I think and believe and make the most sense to me, that give me the most comfort. I personally think that's what religion was designed for, because we can't prove it or disprove it. We can only believe it and let that influence our behaviour. So I choose to believe that we have multiple people that surround us that could be partners for us. Do we meet all of them? No. Do we end up in relationships with them all? No. But I reckon there's an opportunity a day for you to meet someone if you wanted to. Like something like that. Because there's just too many circumstantial situations for love to work otherwise, because it's totally illogic. It can't follow an algorithm. It has to be, it just happens. It just happens. Which is why no dating person, myself or anybody else, can tell you, oh, it will happen if you do this or it will happen if you do that. Now, I believe there are things that can give you the best opportunity and the best chance of something happening when an opportunity arises. But for every time that you're sat there waiting for it, literally waiting for it, the less you're likely to get it. Because it just turns into that desperation. And as I say, I was going to go a tad woo. And it is all to do with that energy that you put out. Whenever in my life I've put out this negativity of worry that something's not going to work out, something's not going to happen, doesn't usually happen. And that's not on a, I'm going to mantra it out and say something positive way, because it's like the subconscious of what you're saying. You can say something positive for as long as you want. But if you don't believe it, then you feel it in the pit of your stomach all the time. It surges through you, and that's what goes out. And then in terms of the law of attraction kind of thing, that's what comes back in. So if you're constantly worried that this is going to be your state forever, that there's never anyone going to be there for you, you're sat around waiting, when will your day come? It won't come, because that's coming from a place of fear. Whereas if we shift to the concept of, I'm the one that creates my happiness, and I'm going to do everything I can to get ready for when that person, that completely and utterly right for me person, is in front of me, and I don't mess it up. That's what I'm going to do. And remembering that you create your own happiness is really important, because we're all convinced of this idea that status makes us happy, that accolades and acknowledgement makes us happy, that things make us happy. And all it is ourselves with our mindsets, with the level of gratitude we have for the things around us, and for the ability to see what we get to do as opposed to what we're not yet at. And I think I've always been a bit blessed with not even a glass half full, but I'm just that way inclined. I'll look at that positive. I will lean that way quite naturally, and I know other people lean the other way. They've got more work to do to get to that side. It doesn't come as easily, because part of you is probably thinking a relationship would make me happy. A relationship makes anyone happy. If you're in a relationship, you're happy. And now I've said that out loud, you're like, that's not right, is it? Because if that is true, then everyone that's in a relationship right now is happy. And I know there's some people out there that are in relationships that are not that happy. What if you end up being one of those people that ends up in a relationship and you're not that happy? Then this whole idea falls on the floor. Because a relationship isn't meant to cause you happiness or sadness. It's something that becomes pretty boring in the end. It's another thing that's just part of your life. It becomes very much your normality. The same as when you have a baby. Like, it's all exciting at the start, and obviously milestones and new stuff does keep you going. But I mean, the routine of children is boring. Even Jason's children, they're older and they're like in school routines and breakfasts. Whew. I mean, that's a boring section. Get up, get your clothes on, go to school, come home, have dinner, do some stuff in the evening, go to bed. What a repeating 5-day period of time. I was talking to my friend the other day and she was going, they're just so slow putting their shoes on. And I was like, oh, I don't mind doing that bit. I do it once every fortnight though, guys. I was like, oh yeah, there's a difference between doing it once every fortnight and 5 days in a row. And so you've probably got this kind of rose-tinted glasses on with what a relationship is. Like, oh my God, we would go on these trips. And oh my God, we were doing that. And don't get me wrong, you can do some cool stuff in a relationship that are harder to achieve doing when you're not in a relationship. But you don't have to stop trying to do some of those things just because you're not in a relationship. As many of my episodes would have said. This is all about making sure that you don't let this stop you. Because if you do, if you continue to sit with this, I'm waiting for this person to make me happy, you're just going to attract all the wrong things. You're going to have the kind of relationship where you're codependent, where the boundaries aren't held, and you end up unhappy. But the happier you are before you get into that relationship, the healthier that relationship will be. And I was determined not to repeat the same things I was. I was determined to make sure that I could attract the best person ever. And to do that, I had to be the best person ever. Because who is going to date someone that is on a lower energetic level than them? It's not going to happen. You're going to have to be on a similar energetic level, literally, to even want to date one another. And I don't, it doesn't have to be that everyone has the same bubbly personality, but you have to have that same positive outlook on life. Look, just imagine it. Look at how positive I am. Look at the episodes. Go back, listen to a few. Very positive. Do you think I'm going to let someone that's a bit moany, a bit like, oh, the world, oh, being single is a bit hard, it's terrible, isn't it? I can't believe we've been this single for long. You could just imagine my face if someone's kind of saying those things at me. And don't get me wrong, that might be their truth. That might be the thing that they believe, the story that they've told themselves. But my face is going to be, are you serious? Like, I can't talk to you. We see things very differently. And I'm not up for the negativity. Like, it's not going to vibe with me at all. Literally, in that practical sense, the more positive that you are authentically, the more positive and experienced the person that is going to come the other side for you is going to be. And that's what you want. It's going to end up being a happier, healthier relationship. It's going to be more fulfilling if you can show up being positive. So this is something that you've really got to work on. You've got to create that life that you absolutely love, regardless of your relationship status. Because no status ever fulfills anyone, whether it's, celebrity status, being an actor. Like, think about all the actors that have issues, that turn to substances for dependence because their lives aren't good enough. Half of them are in relationships. They should be happy according to your logic right now. It doesn't work like that. Like, our lives can be happy and sad no matter what our statuses are. Like, think of all the people that are in relationships and they do have good relationships with people, so they're not unhappy in their relationship. But then they lose their parent. They're unhappy. Their relationships are not going to be going well. The relationship isn't the thing that makes them happy. It's having these connections with people. It's sharing experiences. And we're meant to have peaks and troughs. Like, all of that's human nature. And having that negativity, the kind of negative spectrum feelings, if you do lose someone, like, that shows how much they meant to you. If you are feeling this, I would really like a relationship, it shows that it matters to you. It doesn't mean we have to mope about it. It doesn't mean we have to sit and wait. It means, okay, what can I do about it? What can I do, though, to make sure that I'm ready for when that person comes along, that I'm going to make it great? Well, okay, I need to make sure I'm attracting the right person, so I've got a life I bloody well love. And that I'm not going to let anybody take away from me, and I'm not going to make a relationship make it any better or worse. It just is what it is. And the other thing that I know would always come up, you'd be like, but Chantel, like, love. Love's really what I'm looking for. I want to be loved. I want someone to choose me. I want to be that one for someone. Now, I've already said I don't believe in the one. I think there are many ones for you. But how? Oh, God, no. We're going to go down a RuPaul route. How can you expect someone to choose you if you can't choose yourself? And I think the RuPaul quote is, how the How do you expect anybody else? No, how the hell do you expect anyone to love you if you can't love yourself? No, strong RuPaul Drag Race fans are going to know that so much better than me. And I certainly didn't do it in a RuPaul fashion. But it's the same principle. You're sat here saying, I want someone to choose me, I want someone to choose me, but you won't even choose yourself because you're too busy trying to get someone else to choose you. The number one person that should choose you is you, always and forever. Because if you're not going to choose yourself, no one else will. And if you can't do the best thing for yourself, then no one else will. And when it comes to love, sure, there's this side to love that is pretty much reserved for romantic, intimate relationships. But I found to get through that as best I could, because there is like a missing piece that doesn't quite happen, but it's smaller than you think. There is this side to love that you can find through friends, through developing real, true and deep relationships with friends. And that means getting vulnerable with them. It means putting time in the diary with them, basically having friendship dates. And I don't just mean going to their house, because sometimes that just feels like a cop-out. I mean like going to do something together. I mean, having experiences with them. Butlin's 2019 comes to mind when I organised that for my old Barracudas group. There were 4 of us. It was absolutely wonderful. And it's interesting as well because from that point on, obviously COVID happened. Lots of relationships developed. I think everyone's now in a relationship from that. Yeah, from the core, that little core 4 group there. In fact, there's a 5th and a 6th. Actually, oh my, okay, wow. There used to be kind of 6 of us, but different people like moved location or couldn't come to that trip for whatever reason. And everyone now is in a relationship, whereas 5 years ago, pre-COVID, I know I wasn't. Maybe half. I can't remember the timings of everyone now, and when they all moved to different places and met people. Like that's moved from there was definitely one. I can't remember people's timings. COVID's really throwing me off. But the point is that I absolutely adored them. Some closer than others naturally, but there was a little group. We went and did stuff, and that kind of love for my friends existed in a certain way, and I value that form of love even now, even with Jason around, because if Jason were to ever go for whatever reason, accidental, intentional, I ended it, he ended it, I wouldn't feel like absolutely everything in my life would disappear. Gosh, I'd find it hard. But at the same time, I know I have, like, when I left my previous relationship, even though I left, like everything felt like it went to almost ground zero. Like there wasn't a lot at the bottom to like catch me. Whereas now, if it's still back up here, even if I left, when I drop, the drop's not so far down. You know, there's a load there underneath that could literally, it's not even activate. I was going to say activate, but it's already there. And that's the kind of system that you want. Let's work on what your home life looks like. Let's work on what work looks like. And let's work on friends and family and who can be there. So that when you're ready to get into a relationship, these things will exist and you've got to learn, unlike I did in my first relationship, first long relationship, you've got to learn how to keep all those going whilst in a relationship too. And how to navigate them as they change. But then, if and when a relationship comes along, it boosts it a little bit and then it just drops down a bit. It's not everything to you. I want you to get away from that. It's a dangerous situation to be in. To think that this relationship's the thing that makes you happy, the only thing that can make you happy, and that your life is unfulfilled otherwise. I know it's hard, or I appreciate that it's hard if you want kids and that's really on the cards and you want them now. I have nothing but to say that it's cliche of it'll happen when it's meant to happen. The problem we have is that we're brought up to make these plans. I was made to make a 5-year plan as part of my uni degree. I remember one of my good friends from school was going to be married by, oh gosh, I can't remember the exact times now, but like married by 21, baby by 23 or something. She didn't hit the targets, I don't believe. She had a baby in the last year or so, which makes her, she'll be 32, wow, in a month or 2 months' time. So, yeah, she was a few years off. Does it matter? No. But the unfortunate thing is that, you know, she had that idea from when she was young. Oh my gosh, I just remembered another, I think another friend from school. We're just conditioned to make these plans and to be like, I don't know, naively confident that they're just going to happen. So, detaching from that timeline is going to massively help you. Believing that there's something there that helps, that guides. I wrote this thing. Is it around? Oh, where is the post-it note of all wonders? Oh, I don't know where it is. It's a bright pink one. If I ever find it, I'll update you. Back in my teen years, there was something that I wrote which was along the lines of that there's essentially always this power moving us back onto the right path. Even if we take a wrong turn, even if we make the wrong decision. And this is how you end up with sometimes different people over time, and there's lots of like eventualities, but there's an overall pathway that you're kind of meant to follow. That is what I believe in some way, and some people will be like, well, that gets rid of your free will. I'm like, I don't know, I think the force to bring you onto the path is always there. Whether you make it full way through the path is based on if you keep running every time it brings you back, like, it's just not going to happen for you, is it? Time's going to run out eventually at some point. But I'd focus on all the other things. Look at that mindset piece. And I'll leave you with this question to think about too, that's going to help you to focus on that mindset piece. But I want you to grab your journals and ask yourself the question, what does happiness really mean and look like to you? Until next time, keep sparkling.